SWC was purchased at that time. Saddle Club at one time had nearly 100 members. Continued until June of 1968 when it became inactive. Reactivated for a couple of years in October of '74. And today we're told the club is inactive due to lack of interest, but they've got some interest today. Entry 193 in front of us here. The saddle is an old side saddle made in Kansas City, Missouri. The last Western side saddle was made in 1929. Troy Stockwell, horse and colt. Windy, Mayor 7 years old, and Stormy the colt is 4 months, and Steve Cundiff on 195 there. His horse is DJ, she's 3 years old. Pony Hitch. Coming up next, entry 196, Gilmore City Locker. Bob and Doris Cook, owned and driven by Emmett Stoloff with their outriders. Coming up next, this is Clarence Larson, 5-year-old team. One of the colts, the colt on the left side there, 2 months old. It's a spreader, 1935 vintage. The Kiwanis Club of Lorenz, also on that float. Coming up next, Dr. and Mrs. Joel Kracht of Sioux Rapids. They have an antique buggy pulled by an Appaloosa mayor. They raise Appaloosa horses in Sioux Rapids. Co-op in Gilmore City, Bradgate, Rolfe, and Pioneer, sponsoring Jim and Rick Day, driving a team of mares named Sugar and Spice. Palomino Pony Team is coming up next, and Hitch Wagon, owned and driven by Randall and Marlene Fridolfson of Rolfe, Iowa. And that'll be followed by the Pony Hitch, owned by Randall and Marlene Fridolfson of Rolfe again, driven by Ron Fridolfson of Rutland. Another entry from Rolfe, Jack Syndergaard, sponsored by the Farmers Cooperative Elevator of Lorenz. This is a team of Welsh Shetland Cross Pony mares, 5 and 8 years old, sponsored by the Buena Vista County Mutual Insurance Company of Alta, Iowa, owned by John Lullman, Jr. Leon Triggs, from the Lorenz High School class of 1939, lived in Booth Township, north of Lorenz. Leon is running for the Iowa House in District 11 in most of Clay and Palo Alto County, Iowa. Purchased the Bell at a farm sale in 1975. Members of the class of 1963 at Lorenz High School, a 1963 Chevy pickup. Montgomery Ward entry of Lorenz, representing over 100 years of catalog service. This is a representative coming in front of us now from the Lorenz Chapter 263 of the Order of Eastern Star, and Grace Lodge number 519 AF and AM. Coming up next, Al Bremer, candidate, Republican candidate for Congress in Iowa, Iowa's 6th District. Dennis Lindgren of Verina for Bill's Service Center of Lorenz. He has a chariot with 2 ponies and also has the pony circle rides. Chris Binder of Spencer, Iowa, our next entry, driving a 1950 DeSoto convertible. Continental, it should be. Beef producers will be having a patty feed in the park starting at 11:30, 10 minutes ago, so it should be underway now.
And flying carpets will give rides immediately after the parade, for 1 hour only.
The flying carpets that you saw will give rides for an hour only, right after the parade, north of the railroad tracks. So if you want to take part in that, please do. This is the Spencer ATV Corps under the direction of Dean A. McLean. Members of the Spencer Area Shrine Club are also members of the Abu Bakr Shrine Temple in Sioux City. First place winners of the drill competition at the Midwest Shrine Convention in Madison, Wisconsin last year. And their motto, of course, remember, no man stood so tall as when he stooped to help a child. The ATV Corps, Spencer, Iowa. Coming up next, the Napa Auto Parts representative from Lorenz. A mini truck. Doc's Funmobile, made, owned, and operated by Gene Wallace of Bradgate. And it is sponsored by the VFW Post 7083 of Bradgate. The 1937 International first pickup owned by C.I. Hersom. Traded off in 1945 and recaptured and repurchased 2 years ago. Lettering on the door was done by Archie Larson in 1937 and by Archie again in 1982. Coming up next is a team of Belgian horses owned by Keith Sundblad, the wagon owned by Carl Sundblad. Sponsored by the Albert City Threshermen's and Collectors Association. Dates for this year's show, August 13th, 14th, and 15th. Blue pickup you see coming down the street, a 1948 Chevy pickup, restored and owned by Mick Sundblad of Albert City. Missy Clausen with Tracy Clausen from Lorenz, Iowa, coming up next. Horse is a paint, and the other horse is a quarter horse. Our next tractor entry is Galen Anderson of Marathon, a 1938 Alice Chalmers UC, driven by Kurt Anderson. Galen Anderson of Marathon next with a 1948 Co-op E3 tractor, driven by Kelly Anderson. West Bend Chamber of Commerce is next, with their celebration coming up later on in July. Farm Implement Company from Sioux Rapids with us. Claire Ferguson, running that business since 1949. A 1931 Chevy, Henderson Brothers Trucking in Havelock. Gaylord, Joe, Shannon, and Robert Henderson with us today. Entry number 229, restored by OK Roofing Company to its original condition. Driver Fred Olson and family. OK Roofing has been serving Lorenz in Northwest Iowa for 17 years, and they'd like to congratulate Lorenz on its 100th birthday. The team of llamas from Stubbs Ranch Kitchen in Spencer, driven by Harold Dean. Buena Vista County pork producers and porkettes would like you to meet the 1982 Queens. Janet Ahrens, granddaughter of Joe Halderman. She's from Newell. Kenneth Vanami from Mallard, Iowa, with Bergen Welding Supply, serves the farmers in Palo Alto, Pocahontas, Calhoun, Humboldt, Kossuth, Webster, and Emmett counties. Pocahontas Fire Department is next. They have a 1955 LaFrance. A 1962 Dodge Army Surplus rig. Their chief is Tom Bollard. A 1965 Cadillac convertible driven by Denton Myers, Myers Enterprises of Humboldt, Iowa distributors for Wilkening home heater fireplaces. Emmetsburg Fire Department with us, the chief and the assistant chief. Coming now, some antique gasoline engines. Bill Kearns, Eldon Woodford of Marathon. A 1957 Chevy convertible owned by Merlin Lansness of Sioux Rapids, purchased last summer to be completely restored. Spencer State Representative Lee Holt. Lee is a candidate for State Senate in District 6. Coming up next, a 1901 Oldsmobile from Humco Distributing Company of Fort Dodge. John Smith, a Republican candidate for county recorder, with his wife Debbie, daughters Carrie, Kelly, and Courtney, and they're from Pocahontas. The American Legion. Post 239 from Gilmore City. This is a pony hitch owned by Hillary Hughes of Rolfe, driven by Ronald Gardewine of Rolfe. This is a 4-pony hitch, also owned by Hillary Hughes of Rolfe. Our next entry with the flashing lights, Rescue 76, the emergency response group organized in 1979. It has 71 members in the fire, rescue, ambulance, and law enforcement civil defense for the county. From Fonda, the Fonda Fire Department from 1929. The Friendly Friday Club in Lorenz began 26 years ago when a group of neighborhood women from the area southwest of town decided to get together every Friday for coffee and a chat. Since then, they have been meeting on the first Friday of every month. Riding on the float are two of the original members, Vandla France and Lucille Winnell. Their float not only represents the Friendly Friday Club, but also the women who for the last 100 years have been getting together for conversation and companionship. Art Buchholz. Wagons are all handmade, and that will be on display at the Lounge Lanes. Rolfe Pullers Incorporated. They urge you to come and see them at the tractor and pickup pulls at Rolfe, July 10th, Mallard, July 18th, Humboldt County Fair on the 18th, and in Humboldt on August 15th. Birthday cake, Ornamental Mills from Lorville. Small Mules and Red Wagon for Stoner's Cafe, home of home-cooked meals, owned by Jack Garretts of Ayrshire. The Lorenz Sun, the next entry. Dudley Implement coming down the street now. On the front of their truck, a Waterloo Boy. Behind it, it says old. And then an 8650, with behind that it says new. Ben's Plumbing, owned by Don Aschenbrenner and Larry Lawman. Place to be is in a tub. Olive and Arnold Barth of Havelock, representing 4 grandfathers settling in this territory in 1869 and 1870. And C. Pete Peterson following that entry for your real estate and auctioneering needs. The car is driven by Nikki and Sean Grove. Weatherall Trucking, an 8 horsepower 220 on this, a Cummins diesel, International 1958 model. That's followed by a 1927 Chevrolet Roadster from Arnold Motor Supply in Spencer. That's E.P. Arnold, the founder of that company's first sales car. New Homestead Log Company, building materials for homes and commercial structures. Dave Leith, Havelock and Milford, Iowa. Coming up, this is H&H Sports of Carroll, Iowa, Hansel and Gretel. Now in front of us, the New Homestead Log Company. Dave Leith of Havelock and Milford. This is a 1924 Hupmobile, Oliver Schonkweiler of Esterville. It's running a lot better than the car that's behind it. We don't have any information on this. Perhaps it's just as well. What you see is what you get. I think that may be from Emmitsburg. That's just a wild guess. That is Stanley Propane of Emmitsburg. Ed Siddle selling some seed corn. John Trulson of Mallard with a workhorse and cultivator. This is a 1939 Chevy pickup from Bernard Oberdings of Curlew, Iowa. This is the Youth Center, Pop's Place. Paul Swaim of Webb, Iowa. 69 Ford pickup with removable top, made by John Lame, I believe it is, John Lame Siding. Homer Clausen of Spencer, Iowa. This is a gas engine that they're pulling. Melvin Jenks of Greenville, Iowa, a 1919 Model T Ford. '29 Dodge sedan, nearly original, 39,000 miles on it. Joe Bredinger of Spencer, pronounced Breidinger, I beg your pardon. 1952 MG TD, owned by Ellen Degner of Fonda. And this looks like they saved the best for last. Dale France. Heritage tent north of us opens at noon, folks. We hope you'll take part in that.
Tours of the town start at 3:30.
Tours of the town at 3:30.
Beef producers are open for tours.
The beef producers are patting their patties, and they would like to feed you in the park.
Right now, starting. Okay, the White Horse Patrol again, 2 o'clock.
And the White Horse Patrol performing at 2 o'clock. Magic carpet rides immediately after the parade north of the railroad tracks for an hour. Thank you very much, folks.
I pity you. I pity you. I don't know how you're ever going to judge it. I don't know how you're going to judge it. Rock to rock, you guys. Kathy.
Hi, Greg. Remember me?
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
Pretty good.
See ya.
Yeah.
What do you do these days?
Oh, I'm moved up hill, Greg.
I hear you. Hi there.
Yeah, hi.
How are you?
Hi.
How
I
you like
got
it up
your
there?
picture from school when you was about 7 or 8 years old.
Really? Been a long time ago,
Yeah.
Well, nice to see you. Welcome.
So
Take
when
care
I
of
make it up to
Emmitsburg.
the fair, you're always either
Yeah? Hi.
coming next
Gordy,
to
how do you...
that.
You take care at Emmitsburg, all right?
Yeah. See about every night.
Hey, good. What are you up to? Huh? Take care.
Well, my dad retired 28th of January.
Oh, good for him. Living a good life. Huh?
Yeah.
Is that your pin, Greg?
Good, thank you. Appreciate it. That's right. When I'm there.